Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com. Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. It is the Thursday edition of the show. Thursday. Oh, man, how did we get here so fast? It's been crazy. Tomorrow's Firearms Friday. Your chance to sound off on issues surrounding a 2A nature. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, including the Supreme Court's latest decision on ghost guns, which, not super good. All right, so we're going to talk about that tomorrow, though. Today on the program, we got a full boat of discussions and commentary and more. We're going to start off here in hour one. We're going to talk to Chris Miller and Jim Stearns here in just a minute about the Kenai Peninsula Fair Gala, which is happening this weekend. And yours truly will be emceeing it, auctioneering it. I'll be doing, but I'll did something. I mean, I don't know. They said show up, and I'm like, okay. And they'll tell me what's going on. So it's going to be this weekend. We're going to talk to Chris and Jim here in just a second about that and get the full rundown of everything that the gala supports and what the mission is for the fairgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. We'll cover some headlines later on in the hour. And then in hour two, we're going to be joined by Sal Mercogliano, who is the host of the YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping? Which sounds kind of innocuous until you watch the channel and you realize how important the shipping and everything. It's a very interesting channel. And thank you. I think Brian was the first person in the chat room who actually turned me on to Sal's channel. And then several other folks sent me the link, which I was already watching, and finally was able to reach out and get a hold of him. And he's going to be on the program in hour two to talk with us about the Jones Act and its effect on Alaska, specifically on Alaska's prospects for LNG. And he's got a new video out that just came out a couple days ago talking about America's first LNG tanker. And we're going to talk about that as well. So we'll be talking with Sal in hour two today. So should be a bang up show. So stick around and stay tuned for that. Share it with your friends. Do all that kind of stuff. Don't forget, you can always catch the show later on the podcast. If you missed it, you can just, wherever you find podcasts, Spotify is probably the easiest, but wherever you find podcasts, you can get a hold of the show, or you can just watch it on YouTube or Facebook. Just go to facebook.com// Michael Duke Show, and you'll find replays there as well. All right, so we're going to get started here. We're ready to jump in and get things rocking and rolling. I see Chris and Jim are in the green room. I can't see if they're eating all my virtual donuts, though, because their cameras aren't on, but we'll see. We'll see if we can bring them into the conversation at least and get things started and get going on from there. We start off with, Jim hasn't connected his microphone, so that's a problem. But Chris is on the line, and Chris Miller joins us right now. Hello, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can. How you doing today?
Doing real good. I see that Jim is connected, but he didn't it says they will need to connect their microphone before they can be added to the conversation. So
Yeah, he's struggling with that right now.
he's struggling with it. Okay, so Jim hopefully will join us in a minute, and Chris is remaining incognito for the moment here as we get him going on. Chris, tell us a little about, and I'm putting up the flyer right now for the Kenai Peninsula Fair Board and the Golden Gatsby Gala, which of course is the big fundraiser here. And you, as part, you run the cannery, and so you guys are providing the food and everything else. But tell us a little bit about the Kenai Peninsula Fairgrounds and the fair, and what you guys are trying to do here for this big fancy fundraiser this weekend.
Yeah, the Kenai Peninsula Fair happens the second week in August, and the fair gala that we're doing here is an effort to keep it free to the public and to keep it funded and keep it going, and that's what we're trying to achieve with the gala here. It's one of the fundraisers that we do to fund this. The gala is this weekend, Saturday night, 6 to 9. It is going to be a past apps. We have some nice donated oysters from Weatherly over at Alaska Shellfish Farms, and we are going to be doing a coursed meal with a choice of poultry. We're going to do a nice roasted chicken and braised beef, and then a rockfish. And we are going to be serving up some drinks. We have an open bar there that's going to be a cash bar going to the benefit, and we're going to be serving our famous espresso martini, and we're going to be doing some shots fired as well.
I think, am I in now?
You're in now. Hey, hello, Jim.
Right.
How are you?
Yeah.
Jim Jim Stearns joins us this morning to discuss as well. Jim, go ahead.
Well, I got the old guy problem. I got a bunch of kids that helped me figure this stuff out, but I couldn't figure out how to work on it. Sorry about that. Hey, I wanted to say, first of all, congratulations, Michael, on taking over the radio stations. I've been working with I work with the Beckers for over a decade, and I love those guys. And I know they were working hard to transfer the transfer over to somebody who's going to carry the torch, and it's great to have you in town here. And not only are you doing that, you're also picking up the philanthropic component that those guys were really good at. So we really appreciate that.
Well, no problem. We're happy to do it. It was it was an opportunity of a lifetime. So we're happy to do it, and we're happy to carry on the legacy of local radio down here on the peninsula. Jim, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this and hooked up in this, and a little bit about what what this means for the community to have this fundraiser for the fair board.
Well, the history of the Kenai Peninsula Fair is a really interesting one. It goes back 70 years, and it started in Happy Valley back in the I think about in the 60s or early 70s. Anyway, and then it was moved to a lot of the homesteaders started it, and it was started with a rodeo and everything else. Then it was the same homestead families moved up to the Milchek and got that property there where we sit now in this. It's about 20 acres, and raised the funds and built the buildings, and kind of like the way the old school used to work. And it's a tradition that's been going on, like I say, for 70 years now. And I got involved about 15 years ago, and I got on the board, and slowly but surely, started putting on events there. And what happened is the community started to develop, Soldotna and Homer and the surrounding community started to develop their own infrastructures. And so the hub, which was the Milchek and the Kenai Peninsula Fair, struggled to basically gather the people together. And so that's why now we're trying to make it free, because we want to get families down there to bring because they come down from Soldotna, they come down from Homer. So we have to provide something kind of attractive, and so we try to put the fair on for free. And that's one of the things we do now. And we do this fundraiser, and we do a lot of things. We try to sponsor a lot of community events. We sponsor a gymnastics program for the kids. We sponsor spay clinics for the animals in the Milchek. We run a weekly food pantry there. we've really dug into the community there, and so we really we appreciate all the support we get, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And it's something that's it's a tradition that goes back, like I say, 7 decades, and we really want to keep it going.
Right. Well, I still remember the first time. This always happens right around my birthday, and I've spent when I lived in Wasilla, I spent most of the time of the last 8-9 years for my birthday. I would come down to Homer. That was part of my birthday present to myself, was to come to Homer. So we'd always come back through, and it was like, whoa, there's something going on. That was the first couple of years, like, wow, there's something going on in Ninilchik. And then folks were telling me about this big the big fair that went on down there. And so this is an attempt to try and keep it, as you said, try and keep it free. That was always one of the challenges. Like when I would when I lived in Fairbanks, so we tried to go to the Tanana Valley State Fair, which was always fun, but we had 5 kids, my wife and I and 5 kids. And the next thing you know, it's $100 just to go through the front gate, let alone starting to buy food and anything else you did inside. So it kind of became unaffordable for larger families like mine. And this sounds like this is it's that's a very tempting thing to come on up and make it be free and to be part of the community. Chris?
Yeah. What was the question?
No, I mean, this is the whole point here, is to keep it free and keep the community engaged, right?
Yeah, that's it. And that's what we're doing with this fundraiser as well. Jim donates a lot of money from Salmon Fest. And it's really it's quite the community of people that get this thing going so the fair can be free. And it's really all about the kids, really, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right.
Like you said, the family thing, Michael, is basically, we had that, what you just alluded to is exactly what we had, because basically we had somebody, really kind of was a little bit of an epiphany we had a couple of years ago. We had a guy come in with a big family, and he said that exact thing, what you just said. And he also added, he said, look, I've been coming to this fair for, 30, I think it was his grandkids, 30 or 40 years. He goes, now he said, Soldotna has a Wednesday market with all the same vendors and the same music, and it's free. And they have, basically it's the same thing you got here. Yeah, you have some different, you have the exhibits hall and the animals and things like that. But he said, I can't come in the gate now for less than $40 or $50 to bring my family, and then I buy some cotton candy, and then I'm broke and I got to get out of here. So that was, like I said, that kind of struck me as something. Okay, we need to. And I know Laura McGinnis and I talked about this. Laura we're on. By the way, we're honoring Laura McGinnis, who was the fair director and fair manager for about 15 years, and then she bowed out and became a realtor. Now she has a health issue, and she's been running the fair for about 20 years, and so we're honoring her at this dinner for her 20 years of effort here. But anyway, she and I talked about this and said, look, we got to figure out how to make this free, because just like I said, we had this epiphany, and same thing you talked about. And so we got sponsors from, Global stepped up in a big way. Conoco stepped up in a big way. We've gotten some other Subway. We've gotten some corporate sponsors. And then a lot of people donate money. And then we have a donation thing at the gate, which surprisingly brings in quite a bit of money. So, we're trying really hard to make it free without diminishing what we're trying to provide.
Right. And it's refreshing to see you guys pull this together and pull it out of the community. I mean, from the political standpoint on the show, we've seen a lot of fairs where they basically, they depend on the government to try and fund them and everything. So to come to the communities like this, to do your own fundraisers, I mean, this shows that real community spirit, in my opinion, and I love it. We're going to talk a little bit more about the gala here in just a minute. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I've got the flyer up there. You can scan the little square QR code there on the screen and get yourself some tickets. Tickets are $50 per person. There's going to be live music. It's kind of a speakeasy action. So if you got your fancy flapper dress or tuxedos or whatever you want to dress up, there's going to be a live and silent auction as well. Or you can go to Eventbrite and look for the Golden Gatsby Gala. And you can find tickets there as well. Again, tickets are $50 each. We're going to continue here with Chris Miller and Jim Stearns in just a moment. talking more about what the fair does. Jim just told me I just got more education in the last 5 minutes with Jim than I had ever before of all the things that they do. So we're going to continue. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the commercial break right now. Jim and Chris are our guests. Couple comments from the chat room. Brian says, if you ever need to get rid of a couple $100, the state fair is a good way to go. Yeah, I mean, that's why I never have actually ever been to the state fair, because I know how much it costs. And I was like, wow, wow. So to be able to get in and go over there and do something for free, I love this. Bill said, this is one of the most Alaskan things I've heard about in a long time. This is like the Alaska of old. And he's right. I mean, like Jim said, I mean, this thing got started way back in the day where people were doing it for themselves just because they wanted to get together and have a good time and show off and be part of the community. Jim, I mean, you guys have got a lot of stuff that you're supporting and sponsoring. I didn't realize that the fair board was involved in all that.
Yeah, a part of it is our nonprofit. Another nonprofit that I'm the executive director. It's called Arches, which is the organization that puts on the festival there. And Arches does a lot of the sponsoring as well. But basically, as you alluded to a minute ago, we don't ask for any money from anybody. We don't get any money from the government. We don't ask for any money from the government. We just generate our own money and generate our own efforts to make this thing. And we try to deliver a product that meets as a business person, and Chris and I, both business people, we try to deliver a product that meets the value. We're not trying to charge you $50 and give you a paper plate full of spaghetti. You're going to get a 4-course meal that's from the Cannery. Chris runs one of the best restaurants in the entire Kenai Peninsula. It's called the Cannery, and they have a really elegant restaurant. Him and his chefs are going to be there putting together a beautiful dinner. We have people decorating for 3 days. They're going to set it up like the 1920s. It's going to be like a throwback to 100 years ago during a carefree era where all of us could use a little bit more carefree era, I think. And swing band, the women can dress up. We had a woman come in and buy a ticket at the food pantry the other day, and she came in and that's great, you guys are coming. And she said, oh, I wouldn't miss it for the world. She goes, how many times can you have an excuse to put on high heels and a nice dress and a milkshake? And somebody looked at me and said, well, I don't have any nice clothes. I said, well, you're certainly welcome to wear Carhartts and a sweatshirt and extra tufts if you want to, because it's Alaska. Nobody's going to judge. So there's going to be a little bit of everything there. So it doesn't matter what you wear. You can dress for the fanciest dress in the world, or you can come in there with dirty overalls and a filthy boots. As far as we're concerned, that's how it works in Alaska.
You just make sure you shower and stay upwind before you do that. If you're going to show up, you're going to show up in your farm working clothes. Make sure you're, but I mean, yeah, wearing a dress and high heels, I mean, that's a Friday night for me. But I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. It's a good place to go to enjoy yourself. I'm looking forward to it. I don't have a tuxedo, but I'll put something nice on. My wife is super excited because, again, she gets to put on some fancy clothes and come out and enjoy it. And like you said, it's not often that you could get a 4-course dinner and all the live music and all the other fun stuff for $50 a person. So it's a pretty good deal overall. Now, I want to give a little bit of background here quickly. Actually, we're down to a minute before we rejoin, so we're not going to be able to have enough time. But when we come back, I want to talk just for a minute about Jim and Chris and what you guys do and your life outside of this, and then we'll fold it all back into the gala. We're talking with Jim Stearns and Chris Miller about the Kenai Peninsula Fair Board, the Golden Gatsby Gala. If you want to get your tickets, do them now. and maybe we'll get you seated with us. I was going to try and put this together with Chris, and I ran out of time, but we'll try and get you seated maybe at the table. Terry and I, we could sit down and enjoy ourselves and have a good evening meal. So you guys go get your tickets right now at the Cube there, or go to Eventbrite, and we'll get things rolling. Okay, that ding means we're about to rejoin the radio, so let's get back to it. Please like and share, like and follow, subscribe, do all the YouTubey things. Let's get it going on the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. More with Jim Stearns and Chris Miller right now.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
That's right. Not your daddy's talk radio, nor am I your daddy. I don't play one on TV either. It's the Michael Duke Show. Good morning, my friends. Thursday edition. Joined right now by Chris Miller and Jim Stearns. We're talking about the Kenai Peninsula Fair Board, and I think Jim just made a valid point during the commercial break. Chris Miller is the chief cook and bottle washer over there at the Cannery Restaurant here in Homer, the Green Can, probably one of the finest restaurants down here on the peninsula. And Chris, you guys are serving up, you mentioned it just a minute ago, but you guys are serving up a 4-course meal. So the gala is, food, the 4-course meal from the cannery, live music. We've got live and silent auctions, just kind of a fun gathering and get together. And where else can you find that for kind of a good time for $50, right? I mean, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a very good deal. We definitely got a couple of our vendors to donate some proteins. Like I said, Weatherly from the Alaska Shellfish Farms, Pat and Don, who own Seafoods of Alaska, donated the rockfish. And the canneries donating the poultry, so that makes it a bit easier to do this. Me and our new chef Julius Rhymes are going to be up there cooking it up. We're going to be doing past apps for the first half hour, very classic style. Servers walking around with finger foods, and then we'll go into the auction, and then we'll be doing dinner. And the dinner is a choice of braised beef, roasted crispy chicken, and then we're going to be doing pan-seared rockfish. We're also going to have our bar in the back serving up some cocktails, so that'll be an extra special.
Well, you had me at espresso martini when you said the bar is going to be open, and you had me at espresso martini. It doesn't get much better than that. Chris, supporting this event, and the cannery, obviously one of my favorite places to stop when I was in Homer before, and now, of course, you guys have got a great selection of stuff there as well. So brag a little bit about what you guys are doing down there, and then we'll fold it back into the gala.
Yeah, we're just getting through winter, and we've got our new menu that's going to drop May 1st. We're going to kind of go into our summer menu. So me and Jules and Cody Fry, our partner, we've been working hard on that menu. As well, we have a new long-awaited cocktail menu coming out on May 1st as well. So we have been literally in the kitchen and behind the bar creating and coming up with our new menus, and we're really excited about that. We've got some new uplifts to the restaurant, got some new kitchen equipment in, so we've got some new toys to play with this summer, and we're really excited for this summer. After last summer, we had such a great year. This summer's queuing up to be good, and as long as we can get this volcano in the past, we can push this tourist season off.
Don't worry too much about the volcano. It's going to happen or it's not, one way or the other.
Yes, Chris has been worried about the volcano. I wanted to add about the price here. When we sat down to talk about this, Chris, again, being in Homer and being at a fancy restaurant, and basically, if you went in to get this meal, even at the cannery, it would cost more than $50. And he said, well, we should charge $75 or $99 for this fundraiser. And I said, Chris, this isn't a nil check. I go, we may only be 35 miles up the road, but it's a different world up there. And I go, we can't charge $99. And even though it's worth it, but I said, we're going to have to we want to make it affordable because we want to make people in there. And some people that are going to come in, we're going to make up for it with getting people in there. They're going to drop some money, and those that can't afford the money, they can afford to take their wife out, take the husband out, whatever you want to do. I take a couple can come, dress up, have a swing band, dance, a little dancing. We got a speakeasy. You can go in there, spin the roulette wheel. Hey, go act like you're stepping back 100 years, like I said. And like I said, our attitude is trying to recreate that era, and even thinking back, like I said, 70 years ago, when these homestead families all kind of acted like Amish people and fundraised and built these giant buildings and built these rodeo arenas, and everybody got together and worked together. We try to recreate that. One thing I wanted to say also is we do have tickets available at the end. We have a lot of community support up there. Inlet View is going to have tickets available if somebody wants to grab a ticket before Saturday. Another thing about Chris's play. I'm just going to make a joke here. There's a bumper sticker. Like, again, the wintertime, there's a bumper sticker I saw, and I think it's kind of laughable, but it's kind of appropriate. It says, it's tourist season, fleece and release. So,
I love that.
So Chris can charge whatever he wants in the summer, because we know how that works, and I think all the businesses, and that's another reason why we're kind of concerned about the time frame on this, because this is the time when things are a little lean now. The fishing season hasn't started, tourist season hasn't started, so we're actually Chris and I were talking about kicking this thing to the fall next year, because we've had that feedback. Like, look, you guys picked the bad time to have this, because a lot of people have money in the fall, PFDs. Fishing season's over, tourist season's over. There's money we got tax season and the end of winter time. So people are like, well, it's a little lean now.
Right. Yeah, the only worst day you could have it would be on April the 16th at this point. So I understand totally what's going on. But again, like you said, for $50 a person to have a 4-course meal and a night out with music and fun times and everything else, this is a pretty cheap date when it's all said and done. Again, you can go to eventbrite.com. That's eventbrite.com if you want to buy tickets, or you can pick them up at the Ninilchik Food Pantry, Inlet View. Do you guys have any down at the cannery, Chris?
We have a few left down at the cannery as well. Yep. Okay,
so if you're in Homer, you can swing by the cannery, or you can just get them electronically again on Eventbrite and
or make it show up.
Easy. Yep. Or just show up at the door, Jim says. So, all right. And of course, all the stuff that the Kenai Peninsula Fair does as well, that's all important. But Jim, you also, again, you were talking about putting on events. So you help support the fairgrounds as well, because you're putting on events down there as well. You got that big event coming up this summer for what is this, the 5th annual Sacred Acre? What are you doing down there?
No, that's Chris's event.
That's Chris's event. I'm sorry, you're putting on Salmon Fest, but Chris, you're putting on Sacred Acre as well.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, this is his 4th.
Yeah, so this is your 4th year. That's going to be happening down there. There's a lot of things that can happen at the fairground, and of course, being centrally located, halfway between Soldotna and Homer, I think it's a good opportunity for folks to come down. If you're up in Soldotna, get your ticket and come down there and enjoy it. And just, again, support a worthy cause. Jim said during the commercial break, you guys didn't hear it on the radio, but he's like, look, we didn't take any money from any, government grant or sources or anything else. This is all community driven, which, man, I certainly appreciate from my viewpoint. I certainly appreciate that. And so whatever we can do to throw a few dollars in the kitty, it's a great opportunity to help out. We'll wrap things up here in the last, we got about 5 minutes here. So we'll start off with Chris. Any further exhortations, Chris, for the folks out there who may be on the fence or waffling back and forth? What's your final call to them here on this benefit this weekend, 6 to 9 p.m., 6 to 10 p.m. at the fairgrounds? Give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's about the overall experience. Like Jim's been saying, we're really going to create something unique here. Johnny B and his band have been working for the past couple of weeks. They've learned all the classics. So this is going to be the vibe of the 20s, and it's going to really, we're going to transform the room into that. So come and join us, and we look forward to it. And we look forward to seeing you this summer out and about at the restaurant, at any of the festivals.
Before we go to Jim, Cindy in the chat room asks, how can we make a donation if we can't attend? What's the best way to do that?
I'll just write a check to the Kenai Peninsula Fair. That's I think I don't know. I don't have the physical. I don't have the mailing address, but I think you could just drop it by the fairgrounds or put it. I think I have to get an address for that.
Okay.
So I don't.
All right. Well, maybe Chris can dig that up in a second here. Jim, your final thoughts here and exhortations to folks who want to come out there to the fairgrounds or are on the fence, so to speak.
Well, I think it's, first of all, as Chris pointed out, we're going to deliver a bang for the buck. It's going to be not just, I always say you might want to come to help the cause, but you're going to get your value even if you don't give a darn about the cause, because we're going to deliver something that's worth more than $50, because that's how we roll. And I go, if you do want to support us, we do. Again, I'm going to kind of just touch on some of the things. We support a horse camp for kids in the summer. We have a summer camp we support that we basically subsidize a lot of this stuff. We run a weekly food pantry up there, which we also subsidize. We run a gymnastics program, which we subsidize. We run spay clinics, which we pay for completely. This is our third one. It's going to happen actually Saturday. We're running a spay clinic up there, not at the fairgrounds. It's going to be over at the community center, which we're paying for it. And we donate money. We donate the building to memorials, to the kids that are doing the Halloween hoot, to the community. Anything that's community oriented, we basically either subsidize to some extent or just pay for outright. So you're supporting something that's, I'd say, the most philanthropic organization on the entire Kenai Peninsula, I would argue. And I think I would like to hear if somebody has some place that does more for the community than we do. I'd like to hear about it, because I'd like to support them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what you're supporting by helping us.
Well, I appreciate that. And Bill says he's concerned about going stag. He says going stag is so much fun. Not, but Bill, come out and sit at our table. We'll hang out. I mean, you want to get a ticket, Bill? Come out and sit with Terry and I. And in fact, if anybody, I would say the first, I don't know how big the tables are, but the first 6 or 8 people, however many other extra chairs are at the table, you guys want to buy the tickets, come on out and sit with Terry and I. We'll hang out all evening and get ready to do it. Plus live and silent auction, I should say. And I'll be doing the outcry auction and probably doing some MC duties as well. Chris, what are we bringing to the table as far as auction items? Do you guys have, what do you guys have out there so far?
Oh gosh, that's more a Jim question. He's been rounding stuff up, but we've got a lot of good stuff and some artwork as well. Jim, what do we got out there?
I think David's got a train trip. I think he's got a $3,000 package over at some really high end resort over in Resurrection Bay, which we're also doing another event over there with the Millings people this summer. We've got something from Mueller's Landing. I think he's got. We have, of course, I don't know. He's got. My son is up in Anchorage rounding stuff up for that. So we have also a lot of really great smaller stuff, gift cards from various restaurants, including the Cannery. Anyway, there's a lot. We have a lot of things. We have a lot of small things, a lot of big things, and it should be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, good. It's a good opportunity, a good reason, supporting a good cause. Chris, did you find the mailing address for the Kenai Fair
Yeah, it's
Board?
actually right here on the poster, 16200 Sterling Highway, Nanilchik, AK 99639.
All right. So if you want to help support the fairgrounds, you can just send a check to the Kenai Peninsula Fair Board, 16200 Sterling Highway, Nanilchik, 99639. If you want to send out a check and just help support if you can't make it. But man, for $50, come on out and join us and have a good time. We're going to be there. We being me and Terry are going to be there this Saturday to help support the Kenai Peninsula Fair Board and all these guys are doing out there. Chris and Jim, thanks for all you do. You guys are doing yeoman's work out there trying to pull the community together, and we appreciate you being part of it. And thank you for helping out and keeping things rolling.
Again, thank you, Michael. We really appreciate you guys. And like I said, it's really great. I was when I talked to Mike Becker a couple of years ago, he's going, man, we really hope we can find somebody local to buy these radio stations. And then you stepped in the void there. And so you're really, really glad to have you in town.
Well, I appreciate that. Bill says, tell Jim, or I guess, or Dave to come see me at All Seasons Honda. He'll donate for the auction. So there you go. Some last minute auction stuff there at All Seasons Honda. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for coming on board. We appreciate it. Hold the line for just a second, both of you. Folks, that brings us up to the break. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. We've got a few headlines we're going to hit, and then we're going to be joined by Sal Mercogliano from the YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping, and we're going to talk with them a little bit about the Jones Act and LNG and more. We'll return in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the commercial break right now. I guess we'll just talk about final thoughts here. Jim, let's start with you. Salmon Fest is coming as well. We want to give everybody a little tease for Salmon Fest. What are you guys doing this year? Give us some sneak peeks here before we let you go.
Well, I wanted to say one thing. Salmon Fest is now its 15th year. We sold tickets and talk about a driver of the economy on the peninsula. We sold tickets in 49 states last year in 12 countries. So basically, we become an international and national kind of phenomenon out here tucked away in the Kenai Peninsula because we deliver. A festival of our size is double the price in lower 48, and our costs are significantly higher up here in terms of trying to transport people up here, lodge people up here, as I say, in the fleece and release time of this year for the Alaska. So we pay a lot of money to get people up here, but we also run a very lean machine in terms of we don't take big salaries. We try to plow the money back into the event and the community. And so anyway, we do have a band this year that is drawing a lot of strong interest. Everybody remembers the Allman Brothers, of course. Allman Brothers, of course, were a legendary band of the 70s and 80s. Their sons have formed a new band called the Allman Betts Band. And their sons, Greg Allman and Dickie Betts' sons, look almost identical to their fathers, and they were the driving force of the Allman Brothers. Well, we booked them, and everybody's super excited about that. We're looking at we have music from all over the world that comes here. We have almost 60 acts, 4 stages. We have we have parades. We have entertainers. We have guys that are doing magician work. We have guys that just play spoons. You run around. It's almost like a vaudeville thing on the grounds, but then you can wander around and some of the best food vendors in the state, some of the best craft vendors in the state. We have a waiting list about 100 long for food vendors and craft vendors because it's something that everybody wants to get in. So we take that. We don't ever try to get my staff. I tell them, look, we act like we haven't sold a single ticket. We respond to everybody. We don't get arrogant. We don't get cocky. We charge ahead. We respond to anybody who asks us questions, and we act like we're just starting. And that's why I think that's why we're so successful, is because we stay passionate, we stay focused, we stay committed, and we just keep working our butts off. And
all right.
That's how
I'm looking forward to seeing what Salmon Fest offers this year. Chris, you're also doing the Sacred Acre, which is, people probably don't know it about me, but it's one of my favorite music genres is the electronica and EDM and everything else. Who are you guys bringing up this year?
Well, we're dropping our lineup next week, but we have a great lineup this year. We've been working really hard on it, and we have our full lineup dropping next week. We'll be bringing our big headliners. Going to be, I'll drop it here for you, Mike. Our big headliner is going to be Troy Boy, who comes out of Europe. He's going to be bringing a really unique sound that we've never really kind of harnessed on that stage. He's kind of the king of trap music, so it's going to be awesome. We're bringing more lasers out. We're bringing more LED wall out. The visual show will be on another level this year.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It's a good it's a good year for music people out here down on the Kenai Peninsula. And so we'll be keeping you up to date on what's going on with both Sacred Acre and Salmon Fest. Chris Miller, Jim Stearns, thank you guys for all that you're doing for this and for the fair board and for the gala itself. And we'll be seeing you this weekend, this Saturday down there at the fairgrounds. So thank you guys. We appreciate you coming on board and sharing with us.
Well, thank you, Michael.
All right. Again,
look forward to meeting you.
Yo, you too. Good e-meeting you or Zoom meeting you or whatever we're doing here. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for being part of it. And again, if you guys want to get tickets, you cheapskates, come on, $50 per person, and we'll get Chris or Jim to sit you guys at my table. So if you want to do it, but that's limited to the first, I don't know, 6 or 8. I don't know how many people could sit at a table, 8, 10. So it'll be me and Terry and whoever else wants to come out and sit with us. But get your tickets right now. Scan the QR code up on the screen right now or go to Eventbrite. In fact, I'll just drop because I have it up on my screen right here, I'll just drop the Eventbrite ticket link in the chat room right now. You guys can go do that and come out and hang out with us and keep Terry company while I'm up on the stage flipping my gums. You guys can come enjoy that. So anyway, appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming on board and joining us. All right. Good morning. Let me remove this here and we're getting ready to go. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Yeah, Brian says EDM. Really? I would not have guessed. Yeah, it's one of the things that I love to work to it. I just, kind of hang out there and we'll get her done. Bill's going to we'll save Bill a seat. So one of you lucky ladies out there is hanging out and being single and wants to come sit at the table with us. We'll introduce you to Bill. So come on out. Here we go. The Michael Dukes Show.
The Michael Dukes Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Oh, Frank wins the internet today. His comment in the chat room was, come on, pay your fair share by buying tickets to the Fair Gala there this weekend in Inilchik. $50 for a meal from the cannery. Yeah, no, can't get much better than that. I'll tell you that for nothing. The cannery, they catered the annual Homer Chamber of Commerce meeting, which I attended down at the Porcupine Theater. And man, that was some good eats. Holy cow. That was delicious. Chris actually even wrapped me up because my wife wasn't feeling good, so she couldn't attend. He actually wrapped me up a plate and I brought it home for her and she was like, nom, nom, nom. Anyway, it's a good time is going to be had by all over at the fundraiser, the Gatsby Gala. Again, go to Eventbrite or just Google it. You'll find it up there. Okay, headlines. Before we get into this with Sal Mercogliano from the YouTube channel, What's Up with Shipping? We're going to take a look at some of the headlines. This is the one that caught my attention. Because this legislature, the House Finance Committee yesterday unanimously approved a $79 million cut to the budget, which, you'd think we'd all be like, yeah, right, except for it's unallocated. If approved by the legislature, it would direct Governor Dunleavy to choose where the reductions are made. So I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, wait a minute. You're just going to cut that's a random number, by the way, 79 million, which apparently equals 2.5% to agency spending if it was cut equally across the whole all the operating budget and the agency spend. So $79 million. And it would be up to the governor. Now, I'm trying to figure out if they're trying to hand the governor a poison pill, because then they could say, well, it was all the governor's fault because he cut this, because even though they're the ones that approved it. But at the same time, they are completely abdicating their responsibility. They're supposed to be the appropriating body. They're supposed to be the ones that are doing. And in fact, even one of the legislature's own attorneys said that without clear guidance, the legislature would effectively be ceding its appropriation authority to the executive branch. And she said that's probably unconstitutional. Probably unconstitutional. Okay. I just, it's crazy. Will Stapp was quick to point out that the governor could choose to reduce state spending anywhere. It doesn't have to do it equally. He could reduce the whole $79 million from the school funding if he wanted to. It's it's interesting. Now, they all debated it for over an hour, but at the end, they all unanimously approved it. Now, I'm a little torn on this. I'm a little torn because at the one hand, I'm like, my gosh, did we actually get a cut in state government? Now, $79 million out of a $6 billion budget, that's, I mean, it's okay, right? Okay. It's, it's not much, but it's something. It's the first time that we've really had any kind of substantive cut or even a discussion on cuts in years on here. But the fact that they decided to just make it like a blank check, like, oh, here, governor, you decide where to cut the $79 million. Again, I can't figure out if it's punitive or brilliant at this point. Because remember, tall man bad, that they don't want Dunleavy to have a win. So are they passing it to him so later on they can beat the hell out of him about, well, you chose the wrong, can they criticize him for the cuts that he made later on when they essentially handed him a blank check? What I really love is the response. First of all, Jamie Allard said, I kind of feel like this amendment is us being lazy. To which I was like, yeah, yep. I think I agree, Jamie. I think that sounds like somebody not wanting to do their job, right? And Calvin Schregi said, legislators don't have time before the regular legislative session ends in May to make targeted budget cuts. We're 2 months in, and now you've just decided we don't have to. Oh, this is so. The irony of this is just so crazy. We've been talking about budget cuts on this program for years, and you guys are just now trying to figure out what, but we don't have time. We don't have time. He went on to say, this says, Governor, get it done. I trust you to find these areas where we can cut government, make government more efficient, make government smaller than the revenues that we have as a state, he said. So, wait a second. Now you trust Dunleavy? I mean, this is the same group of people who back in 2018, I mean, not all the same group, but mostly the same group of people who were, caterwauling about the governor wanted to make some cuts. And I think the cuts, they ended up, I think the proposed cuts when it was all said and done was less than $100 million. But, they wanted to make the cuts and they were going to be draconian. They started a recall effort and everything else. And now they're like, Governor, get it done. We trust you to find these areas where we can cut. Really? Really? I mean, that's what you're doing. Wow. During breaks from the proceedings, some of the committee members jokingly referred to the cuts as the Doge Amendment. But again, $79 million out of a $6 billion plus budget between the two. This is $79 million from the draft operating budget. So this is just from operations, but and what a weird number. I don't know why I haven't watched the meeting. I don't know exactly what was going on, but to see that it was just 79 seems like an odd number. It was very specific. Like, why was it just 70? Are you trying to reach a certain threshold or what's going on? But yeah, the legislature and the House Finance Committee has now moved it over to moved it out. They voted it out unanimously. They spent 8 hours yesterday debating amendments. There were 96 amendments that were prepared. Not all of them were introduced or heard, but I mean, there was a lot of things. There was a lot of things talked about. Now, two of the things that they didn't talk about and have not finalized is the size of the PFD and the school funding increase, the BSA increase. They didn't take those up. They didn't, because why? Because they don't know how to pay for it. They don't know how to pay for the school increase other than, I guess, cutting the size of the PFD. So, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Now, the Senate, of course, has already indicated that they want the $1,400 PFD following the 75-25, 25-75 split. But the Democrats in the House have been saying, well, maybe $1,000 would be more reasonable. We don't want a supersized PFD. Again, don't forget that statutorily the PFD should be somewhere in the $3,600 range. But don't worry about that. Don't mind them. I mean, they can't even find their own cuts at this point. I think Jamie Allard's right. This feels like us being lazy. This kind of feels like this amendment is us being lazy. Frank Tomaszewski said, I've never seen anything like that. This is really strange. You think? I mean, because if somebody starts screaming about making cuts, what's the first thing that one of these politicians will say to you? Okay, well, where are you going to cut then? You have to be specific. Well, wait, you just gave the governor, you can't do. See, this is the avoidance play. Because then they could tell their constituencies, well, I didn't cut your thing. The governor, I just directed, they don't want, this is avoidance. This is them being not being the bad guy. That's what this is. They want to avoid impacting or irritating any of their special interests or everything else. So they just put out a blank check and then give it to the governor. And now the governor has the hot potato and he'll be the one that takes the heat. Because apparently people are stupid and they can't see how that worked. They just think, well, the governor did it, so it must be his fault. So again, kind of a brilliant move, kind of crazy, but I guess we'll see what the rest of the House does with it and whether it gets over to the Senate or not. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. I mean, really? We just didn't have time. We just don't have time to make the specific cuts that we need to. Really? Charlie says, is that a cut from the current budget or a cut in the proposed increases? This is a cut from the governor's budget. So this is a cut from the governor's proposed budget. So I think it would be the latter in that, Charlie. Let me read that, because the first line of the thing basically says it here. If approved by the legislature, Governor Mike Dunleavy will be directed to choose where the reductions are made. The $79 million figure equates to spending added by the Dunleavy administration to the baseline budget in recent months. So this would just basically take us back to last year, to the baseline budget. So is it really a cut? I guess it is a cut to the increase to bring us back to zero. Good catch, Charlie. Good catch. Anthony said the ratio of this cut to debt makes me feel like when my grandson walks up with a picture that looks like a pack of crayons got into a street fight, and I'm forced by social contract to say, "Oh, it looks so good." True. That's Fat Ray over in YouTube says they seem to have all the time in the world to find ways to spend money, though. That's true. They don't have time to cut this stuff, but they do have time to spend it. They can spend it all that they want. Take every penny from the university system, says Willie. It's the largest employer in the state with the most underutilized campuses in America. 3,900 is a full PFD this year. I hadn't seen the new updated numbers, but yeah, I always like to undershoot a little bit, Willie, just in case somebody's actually doing the math out there and they pull it back for me. But yeah, there you go. Rick says, hey, whatever happened to the science guy? You mean the space guy? Well, he's dodging me. He's a busy guy. I want to have him on. It's not that I don't want to have him on. I've sent two messages to Chris Howard in Australia for him to be part of Firearms Friday and more. So that's been fun, but I haven't heard back from him yet either. But Rod Pyle, who works for NASA and JPL and has been doing a lot of his author and all that stuff, we're trying to get him back on the program, and he's dodging me right now. He's just a busy guy. So we're looking forward to that. Hey, look at that. I see Sal Mercogliano is in the green room. He's eating all my virtual donuts again. Dang it. I just, leave a sprinkled one for me. We're gonna chat. Let's pull Sal up real quick just to check the audio and make sure everything's going well before we rejoin the radio show. Let's bring him on. Sal Mercogliano, what's happening with shipping? Hello, my friend. What's going on? How are you?
Good morning, Michael. Good to talk to you and everything. I was actually eating the crullers. The crullers are absolutely delicious. So that's
man, crullers with a little chocolate flair on top. That's my kryptonite right there. Sal, I really appreciate you coming on. I will be honest with you. One of my listeners in the chat room turned me onto your channel here about must have been 2 or 3 months ago, and I've been kind of picking up and watching some of your videos. Because, I mean, first of all, when you read that, and we'll get into this when we get onto the radio, but I got to say, you've got a great channel, and it is engaging, and it's educational, and you keep it light, and you keep it entertaining, and I appreciate that, because the subject, you would think that when it's like, what's going on with shipping? Oh, yeah, that's a channel I want to watch, right? But it really, you got a lot of insight there, and I really like it. So kudos to you.
Well, I appreciate it. That means a lot. It's a topic that my wife tells me all the time is like who would be watching this? Who watches this about shipping? And it has grown 4 years now. We just had the 4th anniversary of the show. It started all back in 2021 with the Ever Given, and so it is taken off in a way I never envisioned it would.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be honest. I want to be honest with you. I saw your video drop about the LNG, American flagged LNG tanker. I have not watched it yet. I've been so busy doing a lot of things around here, but so you're going to have to give us kind of a recap of that, because
Sure.
I think that's appropriate for what's going on here in Alaska with what we're dealing with. And we're going to be focused on that. So I'm going to pull you back in the green room for just a second. We're going to get back to you here in a second, Sal. So thank you so much for coming on board. You know what? If I was a good host, I would get you a link to his YouTube channel so that I could drop it to you in the chat room. If I was a good radio host, that's what I would do. Here we go. I've got the boom. Right there. I got the link. All right. Whoops. I didn't want to do that. All right. We're gonna drop that in there. There is a link right there for all you folks on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble. You guys can all go out and subscribe to Sal's channel and watch some interesting stuff. There's some super interesting stuff there. So if you haven't gone out and seen him yet, now's your opportunity to go over there and give him a like, give him a subscribe, do all that stuff. to thank him for coming on the show to discuss this. Let's get back into it. All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour break. Time to rejoin the radio. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go. Let's go. Hour 2 is right now.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Appreciate you guys coming out and joining us for hour 2 of this beautiful Thursday. We got to dive right into it here this morning in hour 2. Sal Mercogliano is the host of the YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping? Now, that may sound like a, oh my gosh, what do I do with them? Snow shipping. But, somebody turned me onto it, and I got to be honest, it is fantastic. It focuses on maritime industry policy, current events in the maritime sector, along with maritime history. And he covers a lot of the hot stuff. I watched him the other day. He was doing a breakdown of a Houthi attack on one of the ships there in the Red Sea. And I mean, it's very, very interesting stuff. He brings a great perspective to it. And so we want to go ahead and bring him on the program this morning to discuss. Sal Mercogliano from What's Going On with Shipping on YouTube. Good morning, my friend. Thank you for coming on board.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for having me.
It's really, like I said, when we first hear and you read the channel name and you're like, okay, that's great. But you, my friend, have done a yeoman's job in making a lot of this stuff very interesting, even to those of us who are not necessarily we're not in the maritime sector. We're not in the shipping. We're not doing those kind of things. And so it's really great for you to come on board and talk with us. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that opportunity. So
yeah, no, it's great. Now, the reason that I brought you on specifically was because you've got a couple of great videos about the Jones Act. And the Jones Act is, of course, we discovered some history here recently that the Jones of the Jones Act was actually in Washington State. And one of the reasons why he started to do this, because there was a talk about creating some privatized shipping to Alaska, because Alaska was really getting reamed at that point by the shippers out of Seattle. And this was a little bit of protectionism. And then he got help from the shipbuilding industry, and then it turned into a kind of this whole protectionist thing for America. But this is back when we were all built. We were like the main shipbuilder in the world. And so it was pretty easy to sell. It's a total change now, of course, with what we're doing today. And of course, we're going to talk about the effect on Alaska. But the Jones Act, 100 years old. It's 100 years old. And I guess my first question to you is, has the time come to repeal the Jones Act or to do a major rethink, or what is your thoughts on the Jones Act overall?
Yeah, I think it's time for a reform, Michael. I will say that most people, the Jones Act is one of these polarizing issues. You tend to be either for or against it, and there's not a lot of in between. I'm in between. I really am. And the Jones Act, when it was written in 1920 and came out, and has been renewed and updated in 1928 and 36 and 1970. When it came out, it was a national maritime strategy. It covered not just the coastal shipping, which is what everyone associates the Jones Act with today, but it did international shipping. It did shipbuilding. It did rights for mariners. It's still a key component of the Jones Act today, as it provides unique rights for mariners working on U.S. ships. It also deals with issues of international trade. There was a Jones Act issue on Section 19 recently where Spain decided to prohibit the use of a U.S. ship delivering cargo to Israel, for example. So the Jones Act specifically for Alaska really needs to be reformed. And one of the things I think we need to be talking about is that, for example, we need to make it more cost effective to ship on U.S. vessels. I think repeal, a lot of people want to argue you repeal the Jones Act and you fix everything. I don't think it will be unicorns and rainbows. I think that's a misplaced idea. The concern with a repeal is all of a sudden then you'll open up Alaska fishing, Alaska coastal trade to foreign shipping. And you just saw, for example, Maersk announced they were pulling out of the trade to Dutch Harbor and the chaos that is caused by a major shipper coming out. One of the things that Jones Act does is it provides dedicated shipping. You have a dedicated service to an area, but we need to make it cheaper and more affordable for everybody in Alaska. And for example, LNG, I know you want to talk about that. We can talk about that next. I think there's some elements we can do to reform shipping. The problem has been the last major reform to ocean shipping in the United States was in 1970. So it's been 55 years. And unfortunately, the focus has been on U.S. Navy shipbuilding, and the commercial industry has really not gotten the attention it needs. It has it now, and it's one of the things I'm very optimistic about.
One of the things that I recommend you do is go to Sal's channel on YouTube and you watch his videos about the Jones Act, because he gives a complete rundown of everything that it covers. But Sal, let's just kind of thumbnail it here. Shipbuilding, when the Jones Act was passed, America was building, a huge chunk of the ships in the world, right? I mean, we were building a significant portion of the world shipbuilding. And where are we at today? Could you do a comparison here for me?
Sure. So, one of the reasons they passed this act in 1920 is because when World War I happened in 1914, almost an entirety of our international trade was carried on foreign ships. And what happened in 1914 is the German fleets left. And all of a sudden, our goods piled up on the dock. And fortunately for us, we had a large coastal fleet, and that could pick up the slack. But during World War I, we passed something called the Shipping Act of 1916. We created what was called the Emergency Fleet Corporation, and we built a massive program. Over 2,000 ships were built in World War I. Unfortunately, they came a little bit late for the war, but that gave us a fleet of vessels to operate for the next 20 years. But on the eve of World War II, there was a realization that we need to rebuild, so we started a new building program under the Merchant Marine Act of 1936. And from 1936 to 1945, we built 5,777 commercial ships, the largest shipbuilding program in history up to that point. We were the #1 builder in the world. By the end of World War II, U.S. flag ships was hauling 63% of the world trade. Today, in terms of total shipbuilding, we build about 0.1 to 0.2% of the world ships. We carry about 2% of our own imports and exports on our own ships. Compare that to a country like China, which is in the news with this. We build 0.1% of the world ships. China builds 51% of the world ships, with prospects that they'll be up at 60% in the next year or so.
I mean, those are staggering numbers. I mean, that has not only implications for, obviously, for the commercial sector, commercial trade and cargo and things like that, but for the national security sector, that has huge ramifications. If they have the capacity to build 51% of the world's ships, and they decide to stop building cargo ships and decided to start building something else, that's a real problem.
Yeah, the Office of Naval Intelligence came out with a report the other year, and they said that China has 230 times the shipbuilding capacity of the United States. And you can see that in their construction, not just of commercial ships, but of military ships. And I think that was a fundamental mistake the United States made at the end of toward the end of the Cold War in the 80s. We made this decision that, listen, we'll get our commercial ships built overseas. We'll take advantage of cheaper yards in Europe, in Korea, in Japan, and we will focus our shipyards to building naval vessels. That was the plan. We were going to build a 600-ship Navy. But then you have the end of history. You have the end of the Cold War. We go from a 600-ship Navy down to a 300-ship Navy. And what happens is the shipyards in the early 2000s experience a massive decline in the number of ships being built. And, in shipyards in Japan, Korea, and China, which are the largest shipbuilders in the world, those three countries build 94% of the world ships. in those shipyards, if you look at a Japanese, Korean, or a Chinese shipyard, you'll see container ships and tankers being built, but right next door to it is a submarine, is a cruiser, is a destroyer. And, they realized that, listen, you need to have commercial shipbuilding to keep the workers employed. And more importantly, one of the reasons that you have such high cost for Jones Act vessels is those are the only commercial vessels built in the U.S. And, if you want to build an F-150, you can, but I guarantee you it's going to be cheaper for you to go to the dealership and buy a Ford F-150 than for you to build and procure all the parts yourself and build it together. And that's what we get coming off the assembly line of those shipyards overseas.
Yeah, I just see you walking into a Ford parts department and say, okay, here's my list. I need all these parts. Just hit me with them. And then going home to build it, I could see exactly. It'd be a $300,000 pickup truck. Well, but that's part and parcel of the problem. And then, of course, the Jones Act itself, one of the main issues, and we're going to get into the LNG component here in a minute. But again, the main component of the Jones Act is that if you're going to move goods or services from an American port to an American port, then that ship must be built, flagged, and crewed by American in America by American sailors, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem is, of course, is that when we have such a small number, the demand is high and the supply is low, and that drives the price right through the roof.
Exactly right. And that's Section 27 of the Jones Act. And that's the one that most people commonly associate with when you say the Jones Act today. And, to me, I love reform, and I think we need to change this. So, for example, we just saw a LNG tanker be reflagged into the U.S. fleet under a provision that was included in a Coast Guard Authorization Act of 1996 that allowed them to bring a ship into the U.S. trade to carry LNG from the Gulf Coast of the United States to Puerto Rico. I think we need to change that. We're not building any liquefied natural gas carriers in the U.S. We did back in the 70s and 80s. We built them. We were one of the first ones. As a matter of fact, we built the very first liquefied natural gas carrier in the United States, the Methane Pioneer. But right now, Korea is the country that's building LNG carriers. There should be no reason that we can't procure Korean LNG carriers and reflag them into the U.S. fleet, and through an exemption, through a temporary waiver, allow them to operate in the coastal trade, while in the meantime, efforts like the SHIPS Act, the Office of Shipbuilding, the latest proposal from the U.S. Trade Representative to get U.S. shipbuilding up and running, while we're using those foreign-built ships in the U.S. registry. We do everything but be U.S. built. We be U.S. flagged, U.S. crewed, U.S. owned, operate those LNGs in the coastal trade. Meanwhile, we fire up our shipbuilding industry. In the next 5 to 10 years, we're in the market to build replacement vessels for that. That's a solution right there, Mike. That's all we have to do. It is common sense, and yet we have to get legislators to really push that through. It is the simplest fix to solve the problem, not just of LNG for Alaska, but LNG for Hawaii, LNG for New England, LNG exports out of the Gulf Coast to Puerto Rico. That's it. It's the solution right there.
As we were talking about it, they actually had a Russian LNG carrier, icebreaker carrier, go across the top, take gas all the way from Russia down to New England because they couldn't get gas through their pipelines. They didn't have enough pipeline product to be able to get gas to New England on a cold winter snap. They had to buy gas from Russia and have it shipped in. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever what they're doing. And yet we still get this pushback. Anytime we talk about this, anytime we talk about just even changing one section, you said Section 27, even modifying it, or hell, getting a waiver is almost impossible, it seems like, to get it done. Final thoughts before we hit the break here, Sal.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that is, Michael, is because so many people, the people who comment about the shipping industry are in the shipping industry. So they have their field, their protected field, they're shipbuilders, they're ship owners. And the problem is, or the solution is, I'm not. I'm a tenured professor at a college. I can sit there and call balls and strikes, and I do. And I sit there and say, it's crazy that we're not doing this. This is a solution that can be done. You can also build a pipeline across New York, but New York will not allow a pipeline to go into New England. I think it's because of the Red Sox and the Giants and the Patriots. But I think if we could just build this, we can fix this.
Yeah, no, that might be you may have solved the problem right there. That may be the actual issue, is the Red Sox and the Patriots. All right, we're going to continue. Sal Mercogliano is our guest. He's the host of the YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping? You should go out and check it out on YouTube right now, and you should like and subscribe to get more information. Lots of good info on there. Especially lately, Sal's been covering a lot of the national security issues, especially with China and their capacity for shipbuilding, their new ship landing for the Mulberry thing. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there. You should go check it out. We're going to continue in just a moment with Sal Mercogliano here at the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
All right, Sal Mercogliano is our guest. We're in the commercial break right now as well. Brian says the Mulberry episode was way interesting, he says in the chat room right now. Yeah, I mean, everything. I've watched a lot of stuff. You did, it was interesting. The people getting around the Jones Act. Was it on your channel or somebody else's channel that I watched the video about the world's shortest railroad was 160 meters or something to try and avoid the Jones Act thing there up in.
Yeah, that was up in Nova Scotia. That was in to get around for, I think it was fishing of some kind. I didn't do that video, but I know who did.
Yeah,
and it was really, there's a lot to do to get around the Jones Act. I mean, people
they got real creative there to run the fish, to unload it from the dock, put it on cars, run it 160 meters, take it back off cars, and now although they finally got dinged on it, and that's come to a stop. But you're right, Sal. I mean, every time we go to talk about this, and you would think that a lot of the people. You would think that we were still producing 50% of the world's ships the way these people act when you're like, oh, we got to have American flag ships. We're not even building this stuff anymore. And yet we're still utilizing these protectionisms, these protective actions in this bill. And nobody wants to roll it back. Nobody wants to talk about changing it or modifying it in any way. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when we had a robust shipbuilding capacity and you can do it. And, the real big thing was in the 80s when they decided to cut back subsidies and the offsets for the international fleet. And that just kind of pushed really shipbuilding outside the United States. And now you have such a closed trade that the number of ships is not readily high. So, for example, we need to replace Washington state ferries. We probably need to do a big replacement in the Alaska state marine highway system.
They're looking at it right now. They're trying to figure out how do we replace these 60-year-old vessels. I mean, they're struggling.
And we should be able to do that. We really should. In the meantime, the government, if they want to, can infuse money into government shipbuilding. They can incentivize to build this. There's a program being done right now. There was just a meeting with the head of CMA CGM, one of the biggest ocean carriers in the world. He's going to reflag 20 ships into the U.S. registry. But he's going to build some ships in the U.S. And when U.S. shipbuilding then gets up and running, then you can start talking about shifting over and putting that back in. Protectionism makes sense when you have the industry to protect. When you don't have the industry to protect, it doesn't make a lot of sense all the time. And right now we're in that kind of place. I think we can build tankers and container ships, those type of vessels, but specialized vessels like LNGs, we should be going to the experts. And right now that is Korea.
Let me let my libertarian slip show here for just a minute here, Sal.
Sure. Go ahead.
I hear you saying, and I saw your video about the subsidies and what happened in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s when the shipbuilding was way up and then the subsidies fell off and you could see that our shipbuilding capacity cratered. My question is, why can't we just remove a lot of the barriers and let the market do what it's going to do? Why do we have to subsidize it? And because we're creating a lot of this problem by creating these subsidies and the kind of this highs and lows and things like that. When government picks winners and losers, it's a problem because they're not very good at it.
Listen, I'm a free market capitalist. I've got my copy of Adam Smith close by. I love that idea too. The problem you get into is when you go through, for example, the U.S. Trade Representative Section 301 report they recently did, you come to realize that it's not a level playing field when you're competing against the likes of China, Japan, or even Korea, to tell you the truth. They do a lot to offset that. China, for example, does direct subsidies. They do tons of indirect subsidies. And if the issue is you're concerned about China growing into the power base, I mean, right now, I mean, China, there's a three-way war going on in East Asia over shipbuilding, and the Japanese and Koreans are faltering. They're losing market share to China. And China has announced their intention to be the dominant maritime power as part of their economic plan. They're intentionally building ships that last 15 years so that they can build replacement vessels.
Right.
That's their plan. And so I agree. I'd love to have it where we don't have to interfere at all. But I think that you can't do it in that market. I also think that we can do things beyond subsidies. I don't like just shoveling subsidies out. I like tax incentives. I like other incentives that we can do to make it happen. I think subsidies are inherently flawed.
Well, you are right. It's hard to compete when you have a state-sponsored industry building it versus the free market. That does make it kind of an unequal playing field. But maybe we can come up with some solutions on this old radio show. We'll find out. Sal Mercogliano is our guest, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Enemy. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
It's true. It's true. I am a pain. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Sal Mercogliano is our guest. He is the host of the YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping. I should have done this earlier, Sal. You mentioned it earlier. You're a tenured professor. What's your background in this whole thing here?
So I'm a former merchant mariner. So graduated of the New York Maritime College, went to sea for a number of years. I worked ashore for the industry and then swallowed the anchor and decided to go the history route. I was really interested in my profession. I didn't think there was a lot written about it. So I went to East Carolina, did a master's or dual master's in maritime history and nautical archaeology, and then over to the University of Alabama for a PhD in military and naval history. And now I've been, teaching for about just over 20 years. And I get to contribute to a couple of online journals on maritime policy, G-Captain, for example. And since 4 years now, running the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so you got some background in this. You got some knowledge. All right, so here's part of the problem with Alaska, and this is why one of the main reasons why I brought you on board. One, the Jones Act, super punitive to Alaska, and probably one of the main drawing points in the beginning for why it came into being, because things were really cracking in Alaska at the time, and they wanted to continue to squeeze the Alaskan trade route. But the biggest problem for Alaska right now is that we have 17 trillion cubic feet of natural gas on the North Slope of Alaska, but it's stranded. We can't get it economically. There's pipelines, billions of dollars to build a pipeline to try and get it to Tidewater for export, let alone for in-state use. And so the discussion has been, well, we could put a liquefaction plant on the North Slope. We could ship it down. But the problem is we've got no LNG tankers. In fact, America hasn't built a new floating LNG tanker in decades. And because of the Jones Act, we're preempted from doing that. Now, there's been lots of exceptions for the Jones Act and the Passenger Vessel Act as well that we saw during COVID when they allowed the Passenger Vessel Act, PVSA, the Passenger Vessel Services Act, which is essentially the companion piece for passenger ships. And they allowed it during COVID, so they could go straight from an American port to an American port without having to stop in Canada. But we're seeing a lot of pushback on any kind of things going on. Puerto Rico's getting an exception. Some other places have gotten exceptions, but no exception for Alaska. So what is the solution? This latest ship that you're talking about that just got flagged into the American fleet on an exception as well. Can we see more of that? Do you think that would help? What do we need to do here?
Oh, I think that's the way to go. I mean, the American Energy, which was reflagged in by Crowley Maritime, it's operating now between Corpus Christi and Puerto Rico. It's delivering American LNG to plants in that region. I think that's the solution. We get that put into an authorization act included, and you can start bringing U.S. registered vessels in. I think the blanket Jones Act repeal, and my criticism I have for Jones Act repeal is most people don't realize what that means. Is that means all of a sudden Alaska fishery goes into the hands of foreign fishing companies. That means, you know, you can actually have foreign flag vessels moving between U.S. ports and moving cargo in the inland waterways of the United States or in the inland passage of Alaska. I don't think we want that. I don't think we want the Staten Island ferry rigged with a Panamanian flag and Filipino crews and people, you know, foreign crew members operating in the U.S. well below minimum wages. But I do think the build issue is the big one. And I think that is the one that needs to be targeted right now. And the LNG sector is the best one to do it because there is no indication that we're going to get a U.S. built LNG carrier in the fleet anytime soon. And so why not do it? And now you have the precedent of the American Energy moving LNG from Texas to Puerto Rico. Why are we not taking advantage of that? There are four big LNG producers in the world. It's us, Australia, Qatar, and Russia. Qatar and Russia have their own LNG fleets. They really control not just their production, but their distribution. Australia is at the mercy of the market system. In many ways, we are at the mercy of the market system. Without our own U.S. fleet, we have a real big potential that we can get shut out of this trade. Even if we rely just solely on foreign flag vessels, if we just repeal it and say, listen, we'll let foreign flag vessels come in and do it, they may shut us out because of a policy issue they have with the United States. What most people are talking about here is having a reserve, a reservoir, just a backup of U.S. ships in there so that there should be a disruption. We can still, for example, move LNG between the North Slope to Alaska to alleviate the energy needs of Alaskans, or to Hawaii, or to the west coast of the United States. We should have, that's a strategic reserve. That is as important as having a Navy and Air Force and the Marines, you know, to be able to move and have energy independence of our own energy. It's just crazy that we're not even talking about that. Right. And I think the problem has been that no one articulates this very well. And unfortunately, it gets very segmented. It appears to be an Alaska issue, and it's not. It's a national issue, and that's what we have to talk about.
Well, and I agree. This is not simply an Alaska issue, and the administration actually seems to be putting a point on it, and I'm hoping they will continue to pursue that and make the point that this is really a national security issue. I mean, having access to our own gas fields, 17 trillion cubic feet that could be exported to anywhere in the U.S., not just overseas. I mean, it'd be great for Alaska if we could export it to Japan or Korea because they'd love to see it. But I mean, to have access to it ourselves and to be able to export it to the lower 48 would be ideal. But the one thing standing in the way is the American manufactured component of the Jones Act.
It is, and you know, it's we've talked about it a lot. I get into it a lot with those who want to repeal the Jones Act because they sometimes use history in the wrong way. I don't like that. They're trying to make their case by demonizing an act, and they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. In truth, we need to focus, and LNG is the area we should be focusing on more than anything else. I had a video I did concerning a rum company in Hawaii. I talked about the koala, not the koala. I said it wrong the first time. I want to make sure I get it right. The koala rum company in Hawaii. And I said, listen, you know, we should be incentivizing people to use U.S. ships, and people in Alaska and Hawaii who are forced to use U.S. ships, they don't have a choice in many measures, should be getting discounts in their freight rates. They should be able to write it off on taxes. There should be measures that allow them to offset the higher costs. We should also be assisting to lower the cost to operate ships in this trade, making the value of the ships more inexpensive for shippers. And, you know, I actually talked to the CEO. After I did that video, I got a call from the CEO of that company, and we talked, and we had a great conversation. I would say it was the most pleasant conversation I've had for a long time. You know, I was worried it was going to be very confrontational. It wasn't. We both came up with what we thought was good solutions. The problem is he's the owner of a rum company, and I run a small YouTube channel, and unfortunately we're not in charge. But yeah, that's the type of conversations that need to be had, and some very smart changes to rules can fix this. It's not taking brain surgery to do this. It really isn't, Michael.
Well, and again, I think we need to expand the visibility and explain it to people. Like you said, most people don't understand exactly what the Jones Act does and all the bits and pieces and components. Look, I mean, I'm not 100% for repeal, but I want to fix this section of the Jones Act specifically. I mean, I'm greedy. I'm selfish. I want to do it for Alaska. It would be great for the rest of the country. But here we are sitting on a huge amount of LNG, more than most places in the world, and we can't get it to our own people, right? We're talking now about importing LNG from foreign shores, which is probably the least worst option. But we've got all this gas on the North Slope. We just can't get it because the government is standing in the way. I mean, they could put a liquefaction plant, they could dredge the channel, they could put, offshore filling facilities and do all that kind of stuff and fix the technical issues and get those ships down there. It would be like that compared to trying to build an $80 billion pipeline. Why aren't we doing that? Because the government is standing in the way and these regulations are standing in the way. And anytime we talk about changing it, boy, they just line up shoulder to shoulder and they block us.
Yeah, and there's entrenched interests out there. So I mean, you do wind up with lobbies and groups that have a lot of say. And if you mention it's kind of the third rail shipping, the Jones Act. They don't want it. It's like Social Security reform and many other issues. They don't want to touch it because they feel like you're going to jeopardize themselves. But listen, there's more attention today, Michael, to shipping than ever before. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time now. I've been, I graduated in 1989. I'm an old guy. I've been watching this, and there's never been more attention to this, from the global supply chain crisis that happened during COVID when we saw 109 ships off the coast of LA and Long Beach, to the Ever Given going sideways in the Suez, to the Dolly taking out a bridge, to the events we're seeing happen with the Houthi in the Red Sea. Listen, we need a good, backup of U.S. shipping to have. We need U.S. shipbuilding. We really need it because it's costing us more to build our Navy ships this way. It's one of the reasons we see disasters in the Navy shipbuilding program, is because that's the only customer using U.S. shipyards. So we can get shipbuilding going back in the United States. And in the meantime, while that shipbuilding is being generated, we can do some measures to bring ships into the registry to find great jobs for Alaskans. Let's be clear, shipping is a great job. It's a good job with good money that you can do. You can bring energy to the people who need it. We can cover the Pacific. We can be the energy provider, because right now the energy provider out there is Russia. And that's the one we have to be careful about competing with, because Russia's doing it. China's manipulating the energy market too. They're creating a fleet of vessels to go get LNG from Australia and other countries. So we have to be thinking about this as a holistic element. And again, listen, I'm a college professor, and I'm the first one to tell my college kids this. I can get you a high-paying job right now without a college degree. I can get you a six-figure salary job right now. Or better yet, I can get you the six-figure salary, finish your college education, go do that six-figure salary, pay off your student loan, and then you can write your ticket for the rest of your life. That's the simple issues we need to talk about. And unfortunately, this is one that I keep pushing as much as I can on my channel to really start talking about having an honest discussion about the Jones Act. Whenever I raise it, but I'll have those who oppose the Jones Act come at me, and I'll have those who support the Jones Act come at me, because I'm in the middle.
Right.
And you get it from both sides of the mountaintops. You're in the valley and you're just getting pummeled all the time.
Welcome to being a libertarian. Everybody hates you. I mean, it's like, it is what it is. We're down to the last 3 or 4 minutes here. I know you got to go here pretty quick, Sal. So, final, what is, if Sal Mercogliano was king for a day and you could rewrite, change, do whatever, or repeal, whatever, if you could fix it, what is the solution in your mind as a student of history, a professor, former Mariner, the whole deal? What would be your solution to this right now? What would be the easiest, fastest to make the biggest dent?
I think right now there's the unique thing about shipping right now, Michael, is this: it's bipartisan. If you look at the Ships Act that was just introduced in the last Congress, that was Senator Kelly. Kelly is a Democrat from Arizona. He co-authored it with Todd Young, Republican from Indiana. He had Mike Waltz, Republican from Florida, along with John Garamendi, Democrat from California. It's bipartisan. It's across the nation. It is not coastal states. It's interior states. Shipping has more bipartisan public support than ever before. What is needed right now is people to craft this and bring together coalitions to do this. Listen, you bring together the Alaska delegation, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, not big. That's the problem you have. You're a very minority in Congress. However, you bring in New England into this. You bring the Gulf Coast states into this. And then all of a sudden you have a plurality. It's like, why are we not doing this? This is for the benefit of the entire country. Bring in the Great Lakes, because this helps Great Lakes shipping. It helps inland waterways, every state on the Mississippi and the Missouri and the Ohio. That helps them. Now, all of a sudden you have it. The problem has been that there are, advocates for the individual sectors, but there's no one advocating for a true national maritime policy. And I think we just have to be doing that. We need, one of the best things we have today with radio, with YouTube, with all these things is to get these viewpoints out and to educate people. One of the things I love the most about my channel, it's grown from 100 people watching it 4 years ago to 400,000 people subscribed now, is that I get notes from people in the middle of nowhere. And I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean, as far away from the sea as you can imagine, where they sit there and say, I didn't know anything about shipping, but I learned so much from it. And now I realize how important it is. And understand, LNG shipments out of Alaska is a benefit for the entire nation. That's what we need to do. Unfortunately, when an energy company says it, there's going to be viewed with distrust. What we need to do is have advocates and educate the people so they know this, and they can go to their senators, their congressmen, and tell them, this is what we need. This makes sense. It still protects the United States. And more importantly, it minimizes the role of countries like China in controlling our energy and controlling our commerce.
Senator Rob Myers, State Senator Rob Myers, has got a resolution up asking for a specific waiver for the Jones Act for LNG ships in the short term. Basically just saying until we can build, or I guess in the case you were just talking about earlier, reflag an LNG tanker, we need to have an exemption so that we can use non-U.S. ships to bring it down. Maybe that's a solution, but like you said, it's a holistic thing. We've got so many people, so many parts, and again, this is part of my problem with government is that it gets involved in so many different areas that it becomes moribund, right? I mean, we're stale at this point, and we can't get out of the squat. We're baked in a squat, so it makes it very, very difficult. But you've got a lot of great insight into this, and I really appreciate it. So I'm going to give you the mic here. Final thoughts, Sal Mercogliano, from what's going on with shipping on YouTube.
I just want to thank you, Michael, for having me on. I love Alaska. I just had a visit up there over the summer. I enjoyed it immensely. I didn't see enough of the state, so I need to get out a little bit more and see it. But shipping is so key. And I think, for a state like Alaska that's so dependent on air travel, on ocean travel, on ship travel, we really need to be, an advocate. And I think Alaska is a perfect place for doing it. We need a new Jones Act. We literally do. We need a new kind of holistic maritime strategy to come out. We need to reform ourselves. The problem is we ignored it. We basically turned our back on it. And now we're paying for the 55 years of neglect of this topic. There have been many advocates for it during that period of time. It just has not resonated like it has now. And, out on the West Coast in California, there's the California State Maritime Academy. There's some great institutions that should be looking at this. We should be having academics coming out and talking about how to make these reforms. We should have business people coming out advocating for this. I think one of the things I love more about what I've been able to do on my YouTube channel is show that you can make a difference. One person, I'm a one-person show, Michael. It's just me. You can make a little bit of a difference. You just have to commit to it. And more importantly, be clear and articulate and get that information out. And I just want to thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And I want to give a huge shout out to everybody in Alaska. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Sal Mercogliano has been our guest. Sal, hold the line for just 1 second. Folks, we're out of time for this segment. We got one more coming up. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the break, Sal, thank you again so much. Yeah, I'd love to have you back on sometime in the future as these things continue to pop up and talk about it. You're right. I mean, I think Alaska could be a test case for everything that we're talking about here, because it is Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Gulf Coast states, and the New England. I mean, all these kind of things. Everybody should be concerned about this, and it seems like we're all fighting over our own little fiefdoms instead of coming together to see the larger picture.
And in truth, it's a win-win across the board. I mean, you're not taking jobs away from you as shipbuilders because they're not building LNG carriers, and they're not going to build them in the short term. It's going to be a mid to long-term prospect that we start building them. And, this gets going. You get the unions, you get seafarers going out. This is going to create jobs for repairs. along the United States. And more importantly, it gets energy flowing for the consumers in both Alaska and Hawaii. And it really turns us into a more self-sufficient country, and it gives us some redundancy. That's the maritime security. I fight this all the time with the government, especially the military. They tend to think that national security means you can carry tanks on a ship or jet fuel. It's not. It's more than that. It is pure resources that we need to be able to cover. And I'm happy to come on anytime, Michael. I appreciate you inviting me on. I just apologize. I got to jump off onto another webinar here in a few minutes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll keep you in my Rolodex here. We'll bring you back. I know that my buddy JD Tuchili over at Reason Magazine just wrote another article about the Jones Act because I've been hounding him about it. So we're hot on this. So I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, there's ship happening every day, and so I'm
That's
happy
right.
to talk about it.
There's a lot of ship happening stuff all right. Thanks so much, Sal. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on board.
I appreciate it.
All right. Sal Mercogliano again. What's going on with shipping on YouTube? Some great stuff there. Good guest. He really is good at articulating and explaining things, and it's been amazing. So I really appreciate him coming on board and being part of it. Okay. Well, he got off a little early with Sal, and so I have some other headlines, but I think I want to stay on this topic. I think I want to stay on this. Willie says it's easy to see why he has 400,000 followers. Definitely bring Saul back. I think Sal has really done a good job, and he kind of underplayed himself a little bit there. 420,000 subscribers, and I'm going to post the link to his YouTube channel again. And there's tons of interesting stuff. You may not think, like, why would I care about shipping? But he always ties it back to something that's in our lives, and it is it's really good channel. It's a really good channel. David said, I thought all the welders in America would be writing computer code by now. Who will be left to build LNG tankers? Well, even those computer geeks have got to eat, right? They got to keep their homes warm. They got to do all that kind of stuff. This is the thing why we're seeing and we'll probably get into this here in the next segment, but this is why we have a problem now. We've got no truck drivers, right? We need more mariners. We need more, and those industries all pay good. They're good paying industries, but it seems like we've looked down on this for so long in so many ways that if you just don't have a college degree, you're just not going to make it. And, you should be working in a cubicle in an office, and that's what the real success stories are. And forget about the plumbers and the welders and the truck drivers and all this kind of stuff. And the sailors, the mariners, the merchant marine. But that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us going. And it's pretty interesting stuff. So we'll see what comes on. Jalen asks, are you prepared for Ash? Well, I'm as prepared as I can be. Prepared as I can be. Terry says, blue collar workers keep us alive. Yeah. I that's the thing. They are the glue that holds the rest of society together, right? You may not want to be a burger cook, but you sure will scarf up that burger, right? That's the thing. The FMCSA is making it harder to be a truck driver. More rules every year. I don't know what the FMCSA is. What is the federal commercial? I don't know what the FMCSA is. Greg, you'll have to share it with us and tell us what that is, because I'm not sure. All right. Yeah, ship happens. Yeah, he's got a whole series called "What the Ship." Anyway, you need to go out there and check out his channel. Great stuff from Sal Mercogliano. All right, the Michael Duke Show continues. One final segment for today. Tomorrow is Firearms Friday. Not good news out of the Supreme Court, folks, on the ghost gun issue. Not good news. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Commission. Never even heard of it. Never even heard of it.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Man, that was a good discussion. I really enjoy talking with people who love their subject and who are so passionate about it and are so good at articulating it. Sal has done he's done such a great job going through all this stuff. And you should go out and check out his YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping. Posted links up in the chat if you want to go find it there. Or as Rick just said, you could go to YouTube and type Sal, S-A-L, Sal and Jones Act, and his video will be right there at the top. And he's got a really good handle on everything that's going on there. Again, even if you didn't want to repeal the Jones Act, there are so many changes that could be made to it that just makes sense. It just, especially in terms of national security, maritime readiness, creating and having the ability to build a fleet of ships. I mean, China, what did he say earlier? 261% more shipbuilding capacity in China than in the U.S. That's a problem. Especially when you're trying to project power and keep waterways clear and, do all that kind of stuff. It's an issue. There's so many things that are going on there. And especially, I agree with what Sal said there as far as, making America more secure and making it more of a national issue than just an Alaskan issue. And I love seeing it. I love seeing it. So I would hope that some of you would go out there and visit with Sal and get a chance to watch some of his videos and get educated on the whole thing. We were just talking in the chat room about, careers, and it seems like everybody, there's for so many years, all the blue collar labor jobs they were so icky, right? I mean, all these icky blue collar laborers. But those blue collar laborers are keeping your world together. They're the glue that holds you together. I mean, but it's one of the reasons I think all that disdain has been one of the reasons why now we're short of truck drivers, right? I mean, we got goods going back and forth across America. We don't have enough truck drivers to make it happen. And that's a pretty good living for many of those folks. I mean, you can make six figures as a trucker, the welders, the plumbers, the jobs that Mike Rowe does all the shows about, right? These people can make good money. Merchant mariners can make good money as well, and they're integral to the stability of shipping and moving cargo and everything else in the U.S. It's a pretty crazy setup. So I'm really glad to be able to talk with Sal. There's a new article. JD Too Chilly from Reason Magazine has got a new article up right now talking about the Jones Act. And I'll take a little bit of credit for this because I've been pushing on JD for a follow-up on his story that I encouraged him to write back in the day. And now he's got the he's got the whole story up with Rob Meyer's commentary and everything else. If you haven't had a chance to go out and read it, or if you're not subscribed to the Rattler with JD Too Chilly, which is his weekly newsletter, you can go over to reason.com and follow him there and get it. But it is it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's holding us back. This is the worst part, is that when maybe the Jones Act made sense back. I mean, I don't think you're really going to convince me of this, but even let's just assume all things being equal, that the Jones Act was much needed legislation back in 1920. The problem is that this is kind of the problem with government, is it gets its own impetus and it doesn't want to change course. It doesn't, anytime you want to talk about making a change from a law that was put into place 100 years ago, there's so much pushback. There's so much baked in self-interest in this. It just becomes problematic, to say the least. You can't get people to want to change, even though we probably could all agree on the finer points of, hey, we need to be able to have exceptions to be able to move stuff from port to port and do all these kind of things. Somebody is always going to be like, but my ox is getting gored. And yes, that's true. Somebody who has had protection in this kind of bill, some kind of protectionism, is probably going to feel it at some point. But overall, for the benefit of the country and just to get out of the way, this is probably what we need to do. And it's crazy. But this is a great article from this is a good article from the Reason Magazine over here, JD Tuchilli. We'll see if we can get JD on next week to talk about this. But it's important. It's some important stuff. And I hope that we can raise the visibility of it. That's what I'm hoping. We can raise the visibility of it. All right. Coming up on would it be a boon to our steel industry? Sure it would. I mean, Sal pointed it out. I mean, if you're building more ships, you're hiring more people, you're getting more workers, you're using more steel, and that's got knock-on effects in the repair industry and the things. I mean, you're just bringing more and more and more on. If we can make it happen here. But again, you've got to get government out of the way in some of these reasons. And I think that's part of the, problem. Terry says, I have 6 welders and fabricators working out of my shop, and I guarantee they make more money than most college graduates. Yeah, no, that's the thing. We were all so bamboozled, not me, because I didn't graduate from college, but we were all so bamboozled by everything that our parents were told and that they told us, and that everybody said, oh, you just got to go get a college degree. That's the only way you'll be successful. It's the only way you'll be successful. Meanwhile, people like Bill Gates and others who just basically built it out of their basement or went to work in some of these things, they're doing just fine. They're doing just fine. Why? Because they didn't buy into it. They didn't buy into it. There are other ways to be successful than to go get a job in a cubicle somewhere with your pigskin on the wall, or sheepskin, lamb, pigs, whatever it is, your plaque, your certificate of participation from the college campus. All right. Reform the Jones Act is better. Yeah, Brian just said repeal the Jones Act is probably a bad tagline. Reform the Jones Act. And I think Sal could get behind that. And I could too. I think it would be easier, by the way, as well. Less polarizing. We didn't get here all in one fell swoop. We may need to take incrementalism going back the other way. All right, well, we're out of time for today, my friends. Thank you for coming in. Tomorrow is Firearms Friday. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you then. Have a good day. Well, I feel like that was a successful show today. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Don't forget that Great Gatsby Gala is going on this Saturday in Ninilchik. If you're down on the peninsula, come out and visit with me. We'll put you at our table. I'll get Chris to put you at our table. Just when you ask for your tickets, tell him you want to come to sit at my table, and the first 6 or 8 people or however many we can get around there, we'll crowd the table around, okay? Again, you can go to eventbrite.com to get tickets. I'll post the link up one final time in the chat room here. If you want tickets, go there, or you could just show up at the door. So we'll do it to it. All right, my friends, thank you for coming on board. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Yeah, tell him you want to sit with the ungovernables. That's right, it's the ungovernable table. Thanks, Brian. All right, folks, we'll see you.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.